County for hosting our program. I'm Shannon Terry, the Public Information Officer for Otter County, and we hope that this show is an opportunity for you to gain information about the services of Otter County, to meet people that work for Otter County, and to know where you can go if you have any questions or concerns. Today's program will highlight the work of Otter County's Land and Resources Department. Today we have the Director, Chris LeClaire. Welcome, Chris, and thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So you are new to this position. You came from Washington County. Could you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Otter County?
Sure. I started my career in 1993 with Anoka County. Did some food inspections, recycling inspections for about 3 years, and then started at Washington County after I graduated from the U of M in 1996. And I started as a food inspector. Did food inspections for about 6 years, and then in 2002 they moved me to the septic program, and that's where I've been ever since. And I did septic inspections for Washington County from 2002 until just this spring in 2018, and then I came up here. What drew me to Otter County was, coming from the metro, going to a smaller community was very appealing to me. Bringing what we had at Washington County to a smaller county it seemed like a challenge to me, and I always step up to challenges, and it was very appealing to me.
So you have 16 years of experience with septic systems. Do you have other professional experience? Are you on boards? Do you have to have special certification? Could you give us a little bit of that background as well when it just comes to the septic system inspection?
Yeah, in Minnesota, to become a septic inspector, you have to take a series of 5 courses through the University of Minnesota. And they're courses that are scattered throughout the state. It's not college courses. And you take a number of classes on how to install systems, how to design systems, how to inspect systems, and then the bulk of the training is about soils, because septic systems are soil-based. And I took all that training back in 2002, passed all the courses, and then of course there's continuing education, which Washington County fortunately had a very robust approach to training. I never got turned down to take training. So I've been through numerous courses in the last 16 years on septic systems. And then as far as boards, yes, I'm currently on the board of directors for the Minnesota On-Site Wastewater Association, which is a trade organization for the septic industry in the state. I've been on that board since 2009. I also serve on the MPCA, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's Septic Advisory Committee. That's a group that meets quarterly, and we help the PCA interpret their code. We sit down for a day and we discuss issues that have come up, issues that have been raised, and we as a group determine how to interpret the code to address those issues. I'm also on another group through the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency called the Need to Know group, and what we do is we sit down and all of those disciplines that are in the septic industry, installers, maintainers, designers, inspectors, we sit down and determine what is the minimum competency you have to prove in order to become certified in that particular profession. And then what we also do, and we're doing it in a few weeks down in St. Paul, is we get together and we look at all the test questions and we vet all of the test questions and we pick them apart. We pick them apart to the point where we make sure the questions are asked correctly, that the answers are correct, that the false answers are correct. And I've been involved in that group since about 2007.
Interesting. So it's safe to say that you are a sewer or septic system expert. So what should the people of Otter County know about septic systems, and why is this information very important?
The main thing that a resident should know about a septic system, most residents, there's a couple things. One, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. Most people are do-it-yourselfers. It's very important that if you want to do something to your septic system, to call a professional, especially when you're dealing with your septic tank. Taking a manhole cover off a septic tank for a homeowner is a very dangerous endeavor. Every year we hear about somewhere in the United States somebody falling into a septic tank, and it's usually because a do-it-yourselfer has a problem with their septic tank and they're trying to solve it. And they take that manhole cover off and either they fall in, they leave it uncovered, and last year I believe in Two Harbors, Minnesota, a toddler fell into a septic tank. Just a couple of weeks ago in, I want to say South Carolina, a toddler fell into a septic tank. Fortunately, that one survived. Most of the time, that's not how it ends. Usually, if someone falls into a septic tank, it usually is not a happy ending. So my advice to homeowners is if you're going to do any maintenance on your septic system, it's always best to call a professional, somebody that knows what to do around a septic tank so nobody's going to fall in and get hurt.
So it's important because it's really a safety issue as well.
It is.
So if I want to sell my house,
Mhm.
I have heard that we need to have a sewer inspection.
Yes.
What is a compliance inspection? What does it entail?
That's a good question. A compliance inspection on a septic system is a very specific activity that's governed by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the state code. And for a single family home, which is 95% of the compliance inspections that get done, they're really looking for two things. They're looking, is the tank watertight? And there's a number of methods an inspector can use to make that determination. So if the tank is watertight, we're good. The next thing they're looking for, which is a little more abstract to the public, is what we call vertical separation in the drain field. What we are looking for when we design septic systems, install septic systems, inspect septic systems, is we want to make sure that the effluent leaving the tank gets treated before it gets to the groundwater. In order for that to happen, we need 36 inches of what we call vertical separation. That's the distance between the bottom of the drain field and any type of water table. We need 36 inches between those 2 points for that effluent to be properly treated. Now, when an inspector goes out and inspects a system, they're going to be doing 2 things to the drain field. They're going to determine the depth of the drain field, and then they're going to determine if there is a restriction and what that depth is. And then they compare those 2 results, and as long as we have 36 inches between those 2 points, it's a compliant drain field. If there's less than 36 inches, it's called non-compliant. In the code, that's called a failing system because it's failing to protect groundwater. Now, in the public's eyes, when they hear the word failing, they think that means water's coming into their house, water's backing up onto the yard. That to them is a failing system. To a homeowner, if they flush their toilet and water goes away, the system is working, but it might not be treating the sewage before it gets to the groundwater. So the word failing tends to create some confusion in the public, and it's an education point for our industry to educate the public on what that means. And then the other thing that could cause a system to fail is what we call an imminent threat to public health, and that is the situation I described earlier where we have sewage backing up into the home, sewage surfacing on the yard. That is more of a serious situation that needs to be addressed immediately.
So if people in Otter Tail County have questions or they notice something that is dangerous to public health, where would they go? Are there certain forms that have to be filled out? What would be kind of the first process in getting a compliance inspection?
So if the public notices an issue with either their lot or a neighbor's lot, they can call our department and we would investigate.
Okay.
As far as there's really no forms to fill out. When there's a compliance inspection on an existing system, there is a required form that the state requires that we get, and that's what we use to make our determination.
Okay. So one of the processes that homeowners would have to work through when they're selling their home is they will have to get that sewer compliance inspection.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So you're new to the position. What are some of the strategic goals that you have and your department is working toward? It's something that Otter Tail County really has this vision in moving forward and being innovative and strategic. What are some of the things that Land and Resources plans to do?
Yeah, there's 2 things, there's 2 goals that I have for our department at this point. One is branding, getting the word out about what we do and making the public aware of what we do. We're very proud of our work and we think the public should know about that. The other thing is I come to Otter Tail County with a substantial background in using gadgets, using toys, using computers. For 13 years down at Washington County, I was GPSing everything that I did from 2005 until just this spring when I left.
Could you explain GPS?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
so we had a handheld GPS device that when I would do a soil boring, I would mark where I did that soil boring. And when I inspected a septic system, I would GPS the location of the tank, I would GPS the location of the drinking water well, where the drain field was, and that's what I'm trying to bring to Otter Tail County. By this fall, we're working with a consultant out of Walker, Minnesota right now that is currently making an app that can be used on an iPad that staff can go out, and we are going to start GPSing all of the work that we do. So that's my goal for this year, is to, by the end of the year, we're going to have mobile technology to answer a lot of the questions that we have in the field.
And you'll really be collecting a lot of important data for the county to keep, maintain, and update for years to come.
Correct. The other thing I'm working on is introducing GIS, which is a Geographical Information System. That's a fancy way to map data. We relied on that very heavily down in the cities, and I'm trying to bring that to Otter Tail County. And currently we're working with the GIS department to train staff on how to use GIS to answer a lot of the questions that we would typically drive out to a site and get the same information. There's a lot of things we can do on a computer and get the same information than driving out to a site. So I'm trying to minimize trips so we can create time to do some of the other things. Another thing we're trying to bring in the septic program is verifying soils before we issue septic permits. That's something we did in Washington County for decades, since the 70s. And that was just common practice in our county, is before a septic permit was issued, an inspector will go out and look at the soil themselves to see if they agreed with the work that the designer did.
So it really sounds like you're aligned to the goals of Otter Tail County as well. You want innovation, fiscal responsibility, public safety, and really that idea of living your best life here in Otter Tail County.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris, for being here.
You bet.
If you need more information, the contact information will be provided. Thank you, Otter Tail Telecom, for hosting our program. We appreciate it. Thank you, viewers. Otter Tail County, live your best life here.